Thanks for joining me. I'm Kiera Morgan on Coffee with Kiera, sponsored by the Human Bean in Newport and Lincoln City. And today I am joined here in Newport by Greg Straypan, who is a local author, and we're very excited to be hearing a little bit about you, Greg. How did you get started in doing writing?
My last full-time job was working as a grant writer in Tacoma for the LeMay America's Car Museum, which is next to the Tacoma Dome. And I lived here, but I had to work up there 3 days a week, and they let me work out of my house 2 days a week. So I was on the train every 3.5 days. And just to have something to do for the 5 hours I was in the train, I started writing my first novel. And so I wrote that whole novel basically on the train, going back and forth from Albany to Tacoma and back.
How did it do?
The book?
Yeah, your first novel. Let's see. Let's hold that up so folks can see.
It was well received by people, but because it's self-published on Amazon, marketing is the big thing. So it's basically getting people to learn about it. And the challenge with the first book is it's hard to describe in a couple of sentences. That's what the second one's so great about, is because you can just say it's a murder mystery, a local murder mystery, or a murder mystery on the Alsea River, and that encapsulates it very nicely. Whereas the first one, I can talk for half an hour before you'll understand what the story's about.
So let's talk about your new book, Wakes on the Alsea. Let's talk a little bit about that. What was your inspiration?
I can tell if you want. It's described in the book. It might ruin a little part of it if I mention it, but basically
Give
wakes...
us a teaser.
Well, wakes can be a lot of different things. You can think of, like waves on water. You can think of a funeral, people viewing a body at a funeral home. But there's also collective nouns that are accepted as names for grouping of animals, like a pod of whales or murder of crows. There's an unkindness of ravens, which I thought was strange. Well, a group of vultures feeding on a carcass is called a wake. Oh,
I didn't know that.
And so the main character, he's taking pictures of wildlife. He's a retired zoologist, but he still writes articles for nature magazines and so on. And he's just kayaking down the Alsea, and he notices a whole bunch of vultures started coming down. And so it's May. He thinks it's either perhaps the placenta of a cow or an elk, but he wants to see what it is. So he gets out of his kayak and he goes up on the hill, and he sees that they're feeding on something. He doesn't know what it is at first, and then he sees what it is. It's his dead neighbor.
Oh.
And so that's how basically it starts. It's not, there's a prologue first, but that's the first chapter basically.
And it's set in the small town of Alsea, right?
No, it's actually set in Tidewater, where I live, yeah. And specifically on Little Switzerland Road, which is...
I know where you're talking about now. Okay. So tell us a little bit about a murder mystery in a small town, small area.
Well, that's one of the reasons I chose to do an area where I live, because any river that I've ever been involved with or I've lived near has a whole host of interesting characters. I have, my neighbor grew up in Tidewater, and so he knows the history of all the people there, and he told me stories of some of the people that used to live there and so on. And so I just decided that there were a lot of interesting characters that I could use in the book. And also the first murder victim is somebody that nobody likes at all. So anybody so is
hopefully your neighbors reading this aren't going, is this about me? So let's talk a little bit about your favorite part of the book. Your favorite part about writing the book. I'll be more specific.
My favorite part about writing the book is one of the strengths of this book, and I think my first book, at least by people that have read it so far, they say that they really love the dialogue. And the main character, although it's not my name, is basically me, and the second main character is my neighbor, and so the reason that the conversations are so real is because that's where we talk to each other, and there's banter back and forth, and we're always insulting each other, and so on. So it's perfect that way. It comes off as being very real.
So are there other books that you have in your mind that you think you want to continue doing?
Yes. I didn't think that I would want to do another murder mystery, but I've got hooked on murder mysteries now. So I think I'm going to do another murder mystery. I'm not sure yet, but it probably will be set up in Washington, and be a period piece where basically it's during the Vietnam War. And that's when I was a student at the University of Washington from 68 to 72. And again, there's a lot of interesting characters that I could use in that as well.
So as an author, how important is it for you to do research on the subject when you're putting together a work of fiction?
Yeah, I think it's really important. In this book, the murderer kills a few people in very unusual ways. And so I had to do a lot of research to make sure that that was accurate. But I wanted it to be something unique to the Alsea River, and I think both of the murders that I'm referring to now are very unique to the Alsea River.
Do you think that helps to draw your audience when folks are familiar with the area that the book is set in?
I think so. Again, you know, just the little bit of feedback I've gotten from locals that have read it is they really enjoy the way a few of the people are murdered, and they could identify with the person that, even though it's a fictional character, they can identify with. We've had people living there like the main character, not the main character, but the person who is the first murder victim that nobody liked. People on the river, sort of like people in Maine, you can live on the river for 10 years and still be considered a newbie.
Really?
Yeah. I've been there for 20 some years, and I'm accepted now, but I still think some people consider me a transplant rather than a local. It's not just on the river. One of the places that the main character likes to frequent is going to Brewers on the Bay, the Rogue Brewery.
Oh, okay.
In Newport. The main character's nephew, who comes to live with him, he goes to Chubby's, the mobile food cart in Walport. So it talks about Walport. It talks about the Flounder Inn, some other local establishments in Walport, and also I worked for 2 years as the clerk at the Tidewater Post Office, and so the Tidewater Post Office is in the book as well.
That's awesome, because I think that it helps a great deal when people can be familiar with, oh, I've been there, and it kind of creates that kind of a little bit of excitement to the book, and makes people want to share it even more. And again, this is available through Amazon. How did you learn about publishing your book and getting that going? Let's talk a little bit about that.
The first book, Amazon had a separate company called CreateSpace, and I found out about them, and I worked with them in publishing the first book. They since moved everything from CreateSpace to another company that they all call KDP, but you have to do a lot more of the stuff yourself. So you either do your own formatting, or you hire people to do the formatting for you, and the proofreading and things like that.
Was it difficult taking the steps to become a local author?
I think it was just basically learning who to contact, and if you didn't know how to do something yourself, like the formatting, finding someone that could do it for you that you were comfortable with.
Mm-hmm. And how much is the book?
Book is $11.99.
Very reasonable. And is it also available as an ebook,
yes,
or online that way?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, great.
Yes. And that's $2.99. I would encourage anyone, if you do read it, whatever you think of it, if you could write a short review, it's really important for sales. People read those reviews, so the more the better. And you know, just be very honest. If you liked it, say you liked it, and if you didn't, say why you didn't like it.
So thanks for joining me for Coffee with Kiera with local author Greg Straypan. Check out his book. It's fantastic, lots of fun to read. And thanks for joining us. Remember to stop by the Human Bean in Newport on 6th Street and Highway 101, and in Lincoln City at the north end of town.